you will fully be able to relate with me. How fun is it anytime you're giving predictions and you get one right and you got to say, I told you so, at anything? When you're a little kid, all the way up to an adult, there's something fun about that, right? There's something fun about making a wild claim, but then it comes true. And everybody goes, how did you know? How did you call this? Guys, I had one and I can't prove it. I swear to goodness I had one. The world's worst predictor, I had one last week. I made you guys right here. I was getting ready to roll it out to you guys, but news changed prior to me flipping it around. I only need like 30 or 45 minutes. I still got beat. But I came to you right when they moved the weight class of Vettori, Paulo Costa to 195 pounds. And I told you guys, that won't happen. Now, this is coming from me, and that really matters because on Monday of last week on ESPN, I told George, this fight is not going to happen at 185 pounds. George asked me about the fight. He wanted an X's and O's. Likely he wanted a breakdown. And all I said is, George, we may not even get this fight because Paulo Costa is not going to make 185. 2 days later, the weight reveals I was right, and it gets changed to 195. Now, I made you a whole video. I said what my problems were with that. My problem is that's not a weight class, for one. That if you're going to go sit down and you're going to redo a whole thing of paperwork, make it a weight class of 205. And moreover, he's not going to make 195. Right? You have a guy who gave his word to make 185. Now you're going to take his word on it. Like, there's no story there. You guys might remember Tito just went through this. Tito was supposed to make a weight class for Anderson Silva. He comes out to the media and says, I'm not making that weight, but I will make, and he changed meaningfully. I mean, I think he put 8 or 9 pounds on it. And then but he didn't make that one either. He didn't make what he agreed to make. Then he didn't make what he agreed to make. And then he made some other weight, but it really wasn't a story. Because when a liar lies to you a second time about the same subject, I mean, who's the fool, him or you? So I made you this whole video. And guys, within a half hour, that weight class was out and was back up to 205. So I had this told you so moment. But if you guys will go back, okay? When Paulo Costa or anybody doesn't make weight, you have to ask yourself, as the viewer, why? And you automatically will default to something negative as it pertains to discipline, where it was the discipline to not eat X food, or it was the discipline to not get in and work out X amount. But if you put on your critical thinking hat, there's no other conclusion that you can come to other than lack of discipline and a question on in what area, and maybe multiple. So I think that we all assumed going into that fight that Paulo Costa was going to get tired, that he would not have the conditioning. And when you look like Paulo Costa, generally, right, when you got those big muscles, right, everything in life's a trade. And if you got big, beautiful muscles, you don't have cardio. If you have cardio, you usually can't go do 300 pounds on the bench press. It's just a trade. So we guessed, but Paulo Costa in no fight has ever shown fatigue. And I know he was exhausted in the Yoel Romero fight. I'm saying shown fatigue, where you see him slowing down. You see him giving minutes away, trying to beat the clock instead of the opponent. All sorts of strategies that you could do to hang on in those situations. Paulo's never done them. So I never felt that we had any evidence that Paulo's the guy that's going to get tired, but I think we did have a belief going into this he didn't. That fight was awesome. That fight was absolutely awesome, and it was not the wrestler versus striker that some people tried to bill it. Marvin Vettori did have the upper hand in wrestling, but it was one time and it was in one round. I mean, that was a fisticuffs battle where Marvin showed just how damn tough he is. And Paulo Costa did the same thing, but they both held up. It was an absolute war. Now, you can never have one of these great classic fights, right, unless you have the ingredient that nobody wants to admit we all enjoy, which is controversy. So Paulo Costa poked Marvin in the eye. No debate. There is no controversy. That happened. And the referee gets to decide how he's going to deal with it. That is a judgment call within the moment. The referee decided to deduct a point. This was disputed. I saw people come out and dispute that official because they themselves have done similar and not been cautioned, or they themselves had it happen to them and that no point was taken, or they themselves witnessed somebody else do a worse eye poke and not have that reaction. That rule says you can take a point away. and thinking that you've seen an egregious foul that then the referee did not go within the confines of the set forth commission's rules and interpret that accurately, and you're going to use that somebody else along the way missed it, and therefore this referee was all supposed to look the other way? I don't understand that argument. You can lose a point for poking somebody in the eye. Okay, what happened here? He poked him in the eye. Do we dispute that? No, we don't. Everybody admits it, including Paulo Costa himself? Yes. Okay, we are aware that you can take a point for that, correct? It's open to interpretation and judgment of the referee in the moment. Do we all agree? Okay, well, the ref took a point. What are we talking about? What in the hell are we possibly talking about? Unless you were to come in and make the claim that the referee saw it wrong and it simply didn't happen, there's nothing to discuss. There is all sorts of rules in this sport that never get enforced. All sorts of them. And I've brought you guys this a number of times over the years, but to crawl up on the cage after a contest in celebration or for any other reason is a 10% fine. It's a big deal. The commission is to keep the action here and keep the audience out here, right? You'll remember Khabib and Conor, just by example. The commission failed to secure that area. But reasonably, we'd never seen anything like that happen before. There's also been a couple of stories where athletes have crawled up on that cage, jumped down, injured themselves or others. There was a Bellator fight. I'm trying to think of who it was. I can see him in my head if I can produce the name, and you guys would know the name. Fight ends. He climbs up on the cage and just the Justin Gaethje stands on the cage facing the audience and hits a backflip, right? The Justin Gaethje. Guy did it in Bellator, and the camera person trying to catch it. They landed on that person, injured that person and the equipment. So when I bring to you that it's a big deal, whether you like that or not, it is a rule, but there's very few commissions that will call it. Most commissions say, hey, just get down. Just come on down. You can't do that. Well, you want to stop it from happening? You believe in the rule that you set forth? Find the guy. There's only a few things we can't do in this sport. It's pretty wide open. So if you violate any rule, in my own opinion, and I'm not a prude on rules, I just acknowledge there's only so many. If we're not going to call them, what in the hell are they here for? So in the Paulo Costa situation, poked the guy in the eye, referee made a decision, exactly what the rules say, cost a point. Paulo Costa ended up losing that fight by 2 points. And I bring that up because so many people, it's like they're not doing the math and they think it was 1 point, they think it was a draw, or they think it was going to favor Paulo, and it went to Vettori because of the point. It was 2 points. It was a 2-point spread, unanimous, straight across the board. What are you talking about? Help me out on that. What in the hell are you talking about? Okay, where do we go from here? Paulo Costa goes to 205 pounds. I think he gets a fresh coat of paint. His stock is certainly not down. He looked phenomenal against Vettori. He's now going to be at 205. He's going to prepare for 205. I have a very open mind on what he does. What should Paulo Costa do? I apologize. What should the Italian stallion Angry Marvin do? Stick around.